Focus on a new skill proficiency. Take an archetype instead of a class feat. I know you really want power attack so you can do even more damage, but consider taking Archaeologist or Acrobat just for some cool depth of character. Pathfinder 2e has been out for the better part of almost 3 years now. Can you believe that? Am I crazy, or has it actually been 3 years? And ever since the launch of this great game, people have been talking non-stop, literally non-stop, about one thing. Not that. No, people have been talking about the worth of a +1. People discuss it. People meme about it. People argue to the death about how much a +1 matters in Pathfinder 2e, and I am no exception. Ever since the birth of my channel, I've been memeing about how broken the fighter is because they get a flat +2 over other classes. Now, am I calling them weak? No, fighter's still one of the best classes in the game, but it is not completely broken like I like to joke about. But I wanted to make this video to kind of put this to rest. For me, at least. I know this is not going to stop the discourse from min-maxers and role players and everything like that, but I want to give my stance and why I think the way that I do. And what's interesting, and part of the reason I'm making this video, is this thought and my personal stance recently changed. Pretty recently. I'd say within the last 3 months, this stance changed, and I didn't even realize it. And that stance is that +1s are overrated. Yeah, that's right. I said it. That extra +1 on your attack roll is not as big a deal as you think it is. I have a few reasonings for this, and the first one I want to touch on is that I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but it's something that I have legitimately forgotten at times, and I know a lot of you forget too, and it's gonna sound really weird, but stay with me. We forget that Pathfinder is a role-playing game. Honestly, I think it's because Paizo took it out of the logo. Paizo, put it back. We keep forgetting. At the end of the day, you are not trying to win Pathfinder. If this was a board game, there would be no argument. In a board game, a lot of the times, your goal is to win. You know, when you're playing Gloomhaven, you want to draw the ×2 card, and you want to remove the negative cards from your deck because you are trying to win. But that's not what Pathfinder or any tabletop, well, I shouldn't say any, that's not what Pathfinder is about, or at least not what it's supposed to be about by default. I'm sure there are tables out there who play against the GM and love it, and I'm not poo-pooing you. If you love playing against a vicious GM that is actively trying to kill you, more power to you. But the way the game is designed, you should not be trying to maximize every potential bonus on your character. Pathfinder 2e was literally designed to discourage min-maxing. Like, one of its main goals was to stop you from trying to win the game. And this is no more apparent than the 3 bonus system. You know, in Pathfinder 2e, there's only the 3 bonus types: item, status, and circumstance, and you can't stack them. If you have a +2 to attack rolls from one item and a +1 to attack rolls from another item, you only get the +2. You only get the biggest one. Meaning, at most, you're going to get 3 different bonuses in a perfect world. And part of the reason they did this was because back in Pathfinder 1st Edition, when there was like 15 different types of bonuses, including untyped, you could just get extraordinary numbers, so people started making characters that were just godlike at level 1, and there was no way to balance the game universally. Now, in Pathfinder 2e, the game is completely balanced at all levels of play for all tables, provided you don't tweak the rules. If you are fighting a level-appropriate encounter, chances are it's gonna be a decent fight unless the dice decide otherwise. Which leads me to my second point. That +1 is not gonna matter 95% of the time. How often do you actually meet the armor class of your target? It may seem like a lot in retrospect because we make a big deal of it when we do, if your GM even discloses armor class to you, But in reality, it's gonna be roughly 1 in 20 times. So that +1 is only 5% extra accuracy. And in a normal combat, when you attack maybe 7 times in a combat, in a longer combat, honestly, that +1's probably not gonna come into play. Let's look at an example here. The Goblin Commando, a fine challenge for a level 1 character. Let's say you're a level 1 ranger, and we'll say you optimized. You have an 18 in dexterity, meaning your attack bonus is as high as it's going to be at +7. The Goblin Commando has a 17 armor class. That means you hit on a 10 or higher. Very cool. If you want to crit this thing, you would need to roll a 27. Meaning, with your +7, you're still only critically hitting on a 20, which would have been a critical hit anyway. The only thing that +1 has given you is the ability to hit on a 10 instead of on an 11. It's not that big a difference. Something that I feel like we start to forget when we are analyzing and optimizing our characters is that the dice are gonna have the final say on anything that happens. There's a pretzel in there. You can get that extra +1 if you want, but the chances of you hitting really usually just come down to the luck of the dice. You're just offsetting that luck a little tiny bit, which I think is almost detrimental sometimes to storytelling. And this part I'm not blaming as much on individuals playing the game, but rather how the games are presented to us nowadays. Nowadays, and this has been true for a long time, combat is start to finish. You enter combat, combat does not end until one side hits 0. This is something I try to actively avoid as a GM. Once one side starts losing, unless they're like mindless undead, they're probably gonna run or try to reason with the party or make an interesting story beat happen. And the same is a problem with the party. If it's a 4-man party, 2 people are down, the wizard is out of spell slots, and the fighter's on 3 hit points, they're just gonna resign. Oh, we TPK. Alright, just kill us, it's fine, it's over, we'll just roll up a new campaign. People think of this like a video game. Like you're going to game over, so you have to start over. But that's not what TTRPGs should be. And it's because of this game over mentality that people feel a need to optimize, to weigh themselves against the luck of the dice. It's why they desperately want that extra +1, so that just in case they do roll an 11, oh, they still hit, thank goodness. When in reality, sometimes losing a combat could tell a more compelling story, make an interesting story beat, and it makes it dangerous for GMs to want to run something like a giant monster. Do you know how often me and other people I've talked to have desperately wanted to run like a level 8 creature against a party of level 1s, show off its power, and then hope the party is smart enough to run away? Because there's no displayed information. You know, the party doesn't know it's level 8. And nowadays, the size of a monster does not imply its power. You know, there are large level 1 creatures and there are tiny level 12 creatures that are way more deadly. Because the players can't tell what kind of trouble they're in right up front, they're never going to run away. They will assume, oh, the GM has placed a monster in front of us. Because of the way this game is designed, that monster is probably a beatable challenge for us, thus I draw my sword and stab. And in order to make sure they can beat that challenge, they will take that extra +1, even though in this situation, if it's a level 8 creature, that +1 ain't gonna do jack diddly. So what's my message in all of this? Put less emphasis on a single +1. Now, don't just disregard it entirely. You know, your Bard's Inspire Courage is still an awesome feeling bonus, but maybe instead of getting 18 strength, go for 16 and put a point in intelligence for an extra skill, or proficient wisdom for something with like nature or medicine. And rather than just trying to make your character better at hitting stuff, Make them better at a wider range of things, because that is something that the Paizo staff have gone on record saying they want people doing in Pathfinder 2e. Pathfinder 2e characters should grow wider in power rather than taller, because the automatic proficiency scaling takes care of the tall for you. Since you get to add your level to everything, whenever you level up, you're getting stronger. Your bonus is getting higher. So rather than just trying to make that high bonus even higher, focus on a new skill proficiency. Take an archetype instead of a class feat. I know you really want power attack so you can do even more damage, but consider taking archaeologist or acrobat just for some cool depth of character. You're not trying to win at Pathfinder. If you were, everyone would just play fighters with a druid archetype so they can wild shape into a monkey, make the brawling weapon group their specialty, and get a plus 18 to hit at level 5. And on the other end, GMs, don't punish characters for not min-maxing. You know, don't send your level 3 party against a level 6 boss whose armor class is so high that nobody can hit it because they didn't min-max. Even if they did min-max, a boss that you can only hit on like a 19 or a 20 is not a fun boss. Unless it has like no hit points, because that's kind of a cool trade-off. I do that sometimes. So yeah, there's my 2 cents. The +1's overrated. Pathfinder is not a board game. It is a role-playing game where you're trying to play a compelling story. Don't be afraid of failure. GMs, don't punish people for not min-maxing, and just have fun. You know, at the end of the game, play the character you want to make. You want to make the ultimate great swordsman? Then sure, play a fighter, take all the bonuses you want just because your character is the greatest great swordsman in all the land. If you have purpose and reasoning behind it besides, I want to hit better, then more power to you. I'd say every choice you make at character creation should be influenced by the character themselves, not the mechanics you're trying to exploit. That's all from me. Thank you so very much for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons as well as my YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you're unaware, we have opened up YouTube memberships. Feel free to hit the blue join button underneath the video if you want to support the channel financially. That's it from me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, the fighter's still broken.